Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. We're here at the end now of Urza's Destiny, part 4, and the last deck of the Urza's block. So let's just get into it and look at Fiendish Nature, which is a green and black deck. Yeah, let's just dive in, take a look at it. Yeah, really excited to actually look at this one because it seems pretty good. So we have a deck list here. We have 23 creatures, 8 enchantments, 1 artifact, 4 instants, 2 sorceries, 22 land. Mana curve off to the side there as usual. Let's get into looking at some of these creatures. So we just let's just start off by looking at a bunch of like really big green creatures, which always a good start. So Ancient Silverback is one of the rares of the deck. It is 6 mana for a 6/5 with 1 green, regenerate it, which that is pretty solid. This has been reprinted and downshifted to uncommon, I believe. But at the time, I think this would have been like a pretty good creature. I have said it before, 1 mana regeneration is like really strong. Just being able to avoid the creature being destroyed for just paying a single mana, yeah, very good. Just makes it really a really difficult threat to remove. Would I like it to have trample? Of course I would. But I think it's perfectly fine as it just serves as a good big basic beat stick. We have 3 plated spiders, which are 5 mana for 4/5 with reach. Again, just like a good solid big creature. We've not actually seen many like spiders in these green precons in Urza's block. But yeah, this is this is a pretty big spider. A Cradle Guard, which is 4/4 trample with Echo. Again, just fairly solid card. We've seen crop up a few times. Winding Worm is a 6/6/5 with Echo, and Goliath Beetle is a 3/1 with trample for 3, which is not great, honestly. But yeah, the other creatures here are pretty good. So a big theme of this deck is creatures getting benefits when they die, and it's kind of like proto morbid, like from Innistrad. You have a big theme of kind of sacrificing creatures and then playing creatures that benefit from having something died that turn. So yeah, really sort of good selection of creatures here. So Hunting Mower is 3 mana for a 3/2. When it comes into the battlefield or dies, you put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, which is with Echo. I've gone on about this a lot in previous Urza's block decks about Echo, but it's nice when an Echo creature has an effect when it enters the battlefield, because it means that if you don't want to pay the Echo cost, at least you got something out of it. And this one has an effect when it enters the battlefield and when it dies. So if you didn't want to pay the Echo cost, or if you didn't want to keep this around as a creature, you're essentially paying 3 mana to give 2 +1/+1 counters out, which is, I mean, it's across 2 turns, I suppose, which is fine, I suppose. Gamekeeper is interesting. So this 4 mana for a 2/2. When it dies, you can exile it, and if you do, you mill cards from your deck until you reveal a creature, and then that goes straight into play, and the others go into your graveyard. That's pretty strong, I think, especially in a deck when it's got a lot of creatures like this one has. You can mill through the deck to find. I think even dropping, something like, say like the Hunting Mower or the Cradle Guard would be pretty good. If you manage to hit Ancient Silverback with this, you're laughing. But yeah, Gamekeepers, I think that's a pretty good effect. Marker Beetles are when they die, a creature gets +1/+1 turn, and it can sacrifice itself to draw a card. It has like this kind of cycling from play ability. Yavimaya Elder is Father Christmas, as he is. 3 mana for a 2/1. So when he dies, you can search your library for 2 basic land cards, reveal them, put them to hand, and if you do, and shuffle. and he can to sacrifice himself to draw a card. So that's that's a really good creature, I think. Like I would say, like, a little expensive to play because like 3 mana for a 2/1 is obviously a little pricey, especially with the double green. But like his effect for dying is very good, just to get 2 basic lands. And if so, that means he serves as a really good like chump blocker. And if your opponent's not attacking into him, at least he can sacrifice himself to draw a card. So then you're getting 2 lands as well. So I think Yavimaya Elder is pretty good. And then Plague Dogs is when it dies, all creatures get -1/-1 turn, and it can also sacrifice itself to draw a card. So there's a big theme here of creatures dying and you getting a benefit from them dying. And then we just have a few more kind of random creatures to round it out here. So Elvish Lyrist is just 1/1 for 1. It can sacrifice itself to destroy an enchantment. That's pretty good, I think. Especially just on 1/1. Yeah, it's like a 1/1 with like an ability to destroy potentially very good enchantments is pretty good, I think. Heart Warden is basically Llanowar Elves for 1 extra mana, and it has this cycling from play ability, like 2, sacrifice it, and then draw a card. 3 of them. This is I'm just gonna say this is weird that green mana is written out that way, because I don't think that's normal. Because like I feel like on other cards, like pretty much every other card that produces mana, it has done mana symbols. Especially when it's just like 1 mana like that. If it adds like add 3 green mana, maybe it does write out like this, but for adding just 1, it's weird that it's written out that way. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe that was like a templating change they did with kind of 6th edition and then decided against it later on. I don't know. And then Phyrexian Monitor, just a 2/2 for 4 with 1 black mana to regenerate. It's okay. And then a bunch of black spells for if when your creatures die and you get the benefit, how about you get them back and get the benefit all over again? So Victimize is a really good reanimation spell. It's one of my favourite ones. You sacrifice a creature and you get 2 creatures back into play tapped. That's very strong for 3 mana. Diabolic Servitude is an enchantment. Comes into play, you get a creature out the graveyard. If that creature dies, you get Diabolic Servitude back into your hand, but also if Diabolic Servitude leaves play, then the creature is exiled. Kind of like a kind of a very roundabout way of doing a reanimation aura, I suppose. I know it's not an aura; it's an enchantment, but which I think works out better because like the rules templating to make an aura that revives a creature and then becomes an aura is like so weird. If you don't believe me, look at the Oracle text for Animate Dead. It is a mess. No Rest for the Wicked is an enchantment that you can just have lying around, and if you have a bunch of creatures die in a turn, you can just pop it for no cost, and you get all your creatures who died that turn back into your hand. That's pretty good. And then Phyrexian Reclamation. This is again, like, I think another really good enchantment. 1 colours and 1 black, pay 2 life, get a creature back from your graveyard into your hand. 2 life is a fairly small price to pay if it means you can keep getting like a really good creature back, say like your Ancient Silverback if it died, or something a bit more substantial. Not more substantial than Ancient Silverback, but just just a big creature, say like Cradle Guard or the Plated Spider or something, or just one of your useful utility creatures. So this is the other round in the deck, Pattern of Rebirth. Now I had no idea what this card did. This is the first time I'd heard of it when I was putting this video together. So Pattern of Rebirth, for 4 mana for an aura. When enchanted creature is put into a graveyard from play, search your library for any creature card, put it into play. That's very good, I think. Just being able to tutor up any creature and put it into play for free. That feels very strong, and it's when you've got so many creatures who have got sacrifice abilities, so they can just kill themselves off whenever you need it. Pattern of Rebirth combos really nicely with those. Just to like if you had your Elvish Lyreist, you you pop it to destroy an enchantment, and then bam, Ancient Silverback is out. Chime of Night combos really well with creatures that want to die. It's an aura when the enchanted creature, actually technically when the Chime of Night is destroyed, you destroy a non-black creature. So normally it's going to be when the creature is attached to dies, the Chime of Night is also destroyed, but it does also provide some contingency against maybe spells that destroy all enchantments or something like that. You could also potentially do like a very janky combo where you have this and you use your own Elvish Lyreist to destroy it, and you do like a really roundabout way of destroying something that way. Splinter is one of the lobotomy spells where it destroys a certain type of card and gets rid of all your opponent's copies of that card. Splinter does artifacts. And then a couple of expunges, which is just Terror with cycling, which is perfectly fine card. Two Twisted Experiments, which is it could potentially be a removal or it buffs up a creature. You've got like quite a lot of big green creatures in the deck, so putting Twisted Experiment on them would make them even more scary. Rancor, one of the best auras ever printed, gives +2/+0 and trample. Put this on Ancient Silverback and you're in for a good time. Your opponent is not. And it has this contingency effect where even if it's destroyed, it goes back into your hand. And then Symbiosis is kind of like the pump spell of the whole block, really. It's weird, there's not actually a lot of green combat tricks in this block. But this gives 2 creatures +2/+2 end of turn. I've mentioned it every time it's come up, but like it is unfortunate the wording isn't up to 2. It does say 2. It has to be exactly 2. So if there aren't 2 creatures out to target, then you can't play it. Or like if you only have 1 creature and your opponent has creatures, you would have to target one of your opponent's creatures as well to get the benefit. But actually think about it, there's like there is this kind of sub theme of there are a lot of spells that like are like pick 2 targets. Thinking about it, because there's Symbiosis, there's Sick and Tide, there's Hope and Glory, there's some we haven't looked at, but like Rack and Ruin destroys 2 2 artifacts, Peace and Quiet destroys 2 enchantments. Just like a kind of cycle of cards that targeted 2 things. And then just to round things off, Braidwood Cup, 3 mana for an artifact, tap, gain 1 life. That's not very good. It's very slow and dirtly. 3 mana is a lot for this effect. That's not very good. That would have been one of the first cards to cut if you had this deck, I think. And then a Polluted Mire and a Slippery Cast. These are just good, non-basic cycling cards. If you draw them early on, fine, you have the mana. If you draw them later in game, then you can cycle them and get a better card. So what could have been? So I think this deck's actually pretty well put together. There's a few cards in here that I think it's weird they weren't included. So Disease Carriers fits into the theme of when you get benefit when creatures die, because when Disease Carriers dies, it gives something -2/2 until end of turn. So that's pretty fun. Fits the theme. Phyrexian Broodlings. You can sacrifice your creatures to give it a +1/+1 counter, so that ties in to the theme of your creatures with, when they die effects. Unearth is just a cheap reanimation spell. Fecundity is a card that definitely should have been here. I say, I think it would have been quite strong to have it, but I feel like just 1 copy would have really, really been great. Whenever a creature dies, that creature's controller draws a card, and you have so many creatures that like want to die. So you would have been drawing a lot of cards off Fecundity. And then, a really, really strong enchantment. I mean, it is a symmetrical effect, but again, it's technically symmetrical, but like you have it and you can play around it when you know you have it. And then Apprentice Necromancer. Just to be clear, I do think the rares in this deck are fine. Ancient Silverback is, just a big fun creature. Pattern of Rebirth is like really strong. Just Apprentice Necromancer sort of fits this theme of like reanimation and creatures dying. So he can sacrifice himself. You get a creature back from your graveyard for a turn, and then it gets sacrificed again. But if you say you've got the creatures that give you a benefit when they die, but I'm glad it wasn't in. I think, it's a card that I guess could have potentially been in. But I think what was there is I say absolutely fine. So in summary, I think this one's actually pretty good. I think out of the Urza's Destiny decks, this one is, I think, definitely the best put together. Like I don't feel like any of the cards in it are particularly weak. Doesn't feel like there's any cards that are like you'd be upset to draw them. Yeah, I think it's pretty well put together. Like to me, this looks like the strongest out of the Urza's Destiny decks. So yeah, like this is a deck I would have been quite happy owning. I think it would have felt quite good to play it. Have your creatures die and get some benefit out of it, and maybe bring them back, and yeah, just would have been fun. And also having big green creatures is always just good fun as well. Um, but yeah, what did you have this deck? Was it as good as I think it is? I'm a bit partial to black and green. It's not my favorite color combination, but it's like the top half of color combinations for me. So yeah, I'm a little partial to because green and black always goes together so well, I think. But yeah, let me know if you had this deck and you played it and it was good. Did you make any changes to it? How many Ancient Silverbacks did you add into it? Be honest. You can say 3. You can say you had a playset of Ancient Silverback. I'm not going to blame you. But yeah, I'd really like to hear what your experience with this deck is. But that is Urza's block for us now. So next video, I am going to start looking at the Mercadian Masks set, which is going to be a bit of a dip in power. I'm going to predict a few kind of stinkers in that block, but I'm still going to have fun looking at them and making these videos and commenting on them. So I will see you next time. Until then, thank you for watching and listening, and have a great day.